already have a backlog of people asking me to preview their in-dev mods, though it's been so long on some of them they might yet become reviews instead.
How prophetic of me. The first mod I was planning on covering in this set of previews was Clone Metal Sonic, sent to me by Sketchzelle, who was also the creator of a mod sent to me of the same name that I also previewed a while back. After releasing that last video, he messaged me to confirm that yes, he had released the character as part of his larger Carbon Isles mod, so this is indeed a review. I'll cover the full mod another time as it does seem pretty intriguing, but today I'm only covering what was sent to me, an extraordinarily overpowered recut of Metal Sonic that scrapes against SRB2's limitations at every turn, but not in a particularly fun or impressive way. Let's get into it. For a fair while, I hadn't actually downloaded or tested Clone Metal Sonic, so all I had seen of the mod was this key art I had been sent. Now, this looks quite different to your usual Metal Sonic appearance, so I was relatively interested in how the character might turn out to look like. I had forgotten that the Sketchzelle preview I'd been sent earlier was lacking many custom sprites in favour of just using an orange Sonic, so maybe my expectations were unrealistically high, but there are no custom sprites at all here. Every ability is just a grey Metal Sonic, and I'm afraid to say that his moveset, well, expect a similar lack of original thought. He's incredibly powerful, yes, but in an excruciatingly unfun and boring way. Expect Metal Sonic on his third or fourth round of enhancement steroids. A higher jump, less time to wait before entering boost mode, that sort of thing. One or two interesting things here and there, but by and large it's all stuff you can do by opening Metal Sonic stats and adding a multiplier to most variables. There isn't a huge amount of stuff I can go into detail with here, because there's barely anything where I'm not going to be just saying, imagine Metal Sonic but more powerful. But I'll try where I can. Like his original counterpart, Clone Metal Sonic is built to go fast, and his moveset is designed to remove or make redundant most obstacles towards that sort of face planting into a wall. The central gimmick is a boost mode that activates after a few seconds at top speed, that makes you damaging, destroys some obstacles, and further increases the speed cap. But that's packaged with a hover ability that can be strategically deployed to float to the same height, as long as speed can be maintained. The two in tandem allows Metal Sonic to go incredibly quickly when used well, but as they both stop working if your speed begins to drop, as well as a lack of verticality overall in the moveset, you need to learn levels inside out to play effectively. That sort of playstyle only works because of balance, as Metal Sonic is already one of the best characters in the game, and buffing him further without adding trade-offs would only serve to make him boring. Fun in video games generally comes from having to think about and surmount challenges, after all. A higher jump means that all of a sudden, Clone Metal has quite good verticality, and so already one of your few weaknesses is lost. The only one you have left now is a need to know SRB2's level design to keep up your speed. And guess what? The other buffs serve to entirely minimise that too. Boost mode is now much easier to get into, beginning practically as soon as you begin moving, so now there's no punishment for mistakes. Hit a wall and you basically just need to walk away from it to enter boost mode again, so, you have no weaknesses to speak of now. But just in case that's not enough, you have some outright buffs thrown into the mix too. Take, for instance, your Spin Dash. Spin dashes throughout the Sonic series are pretty all over the place in terms of power, but I'd say SRB2 hits the sweet spot in making it powerful while still disincentivizing using it due to the need to charge it, which would still make it slower than simply being good enough to not need it. For Clone Metal, this is not an equation you need to consider. The reason for this is double-barreled. Not only does the ability charge up and increase in power more quickly than usual, but it also has a much higher speed regardless of what level you charge it to. It's too fast, actually, to use in most situations, as you'll blast off so quickly as to be uncontrollable. Boost mode also quickly reaches this point, so the original idea of wrestling with a speed buff before you lose control is effectively lost, as you reach that point so much more quickly. I don't have a problem with overpowered characters as a concept. If I did, I'd be giving much lower scores to practically every mod. But I think there's good OP and bad OP. To be the right sort of overpowered, you can have gimmicks that make it entirely too easy to blast through a level, but there should be challenge to that. or a trade-off, or at least a unique moveset to justify it. That's what a lot of the more complex mods for SRB2 do, like Silverhorn is a recent example. Aether there can do basically anything and everything in a level with the spells and crystal wings, but to use them well you need to learn to juggle entering flight mode as well as your spell cooldowns, so it doesn't feel completely unearned to be reaching level ends as quickly as you are, because failing to juggle the gimmicks will cause you to lose that speed and flow you have very quickly. Clone Metal Sonic instead represents the bad sort of OP, as instead of making unique and powerful abilities, or making the great power come with a caveat, you instead just have really powerful base stats and a poorly balanced list of buffs to vanilla abilities. This is the realm of a lot of creators' first attempts, or the meme character made in a week, and you want to avoid it. It's just not fun to be breaking SRB2 in half when to do so, you're not putting any work in and are instead just smashing your heads into walls when every surface you touch instantly sends you flying at supersonic speeds. There are a few unique abilities here, to be fair, but I don't think they really fix any of the aforementioned problems. Firstly, you have an energy blast activated by pressing spin after jumping, which targets enemies and monitors and sends an energy blast at them. Great in boss battles especially, as you don't need to go anywhere near them and can indeed become some sort of aerial bomber by just hovering above them and spamming this, but I find it can be a bit inconsistent in normal levels. Sometimes it doesn't seem to activate properly, stuff like that. It's not the only thing taken from the Metal Sonic boss fight either, as Clone Metal effectively cannot be damaged. Getting hit will instead cause impact much like Metal Sonic so annoyingly does in that fight, and fly off backwards, away from the danger. Indeed, the only thing that can actually harm you is instant deaths, such as crushing or bombless pits, as even drowning is no longer a threat. As I believe every robot character should, despite so few doing so, Clone Metal has infinite oxygen, making it entirely possible to stay underwater, or even in outer space indefinitely. Out of all of the buffs, this is the best one, with the prior two being fun but only amplifying how broken the character is, and all of the ones before them just making him outright unfun to play. Turning super as Clone Metal Sonic is pretty damn easy, seeing as you don't need to worry about getting hit and losing your rings. Unfortunately, it is an incredibly boring transformation, as he's already so powerful that there's really nothing that can be done to further power him up without giving him something like an instant win button or a teleport. You get an even higher jump and get a further speed buff, so that you're effectively at spin dash speeds all of the time. Considering I was just talking about how that's uncontrollable, you could say that turning super is actually more of a nerf than anything. One strange thing I noticed about turning super as Clone Metal in water stages is that falling through the water after losing your boost mode can occasionally just fall apart. I don't think I got any footage of it occurring, or at best I only got very minimal cases of it happening, but there was one case where I had to drop down a pit to a lower section underwater, and I just could not do it. I went so fast that I entered boost mode while falling, and even after it ended I wouldn't begin to sink down. To fall I needed to run in a circle, stop, end up dropping a few inches, stop falling, and get stuck again, and then repeat over and over. It took me 2 minutes to fall the full way. I think that counts as a major glitch. Even aesthetically, turning super is boring, as rather than turn the standard yellow gold, or even better, get a custom paint job, Clone Metal just gets a red overlay over all of his sprites. It doesn't look powerful, it doesn't feel special, and hell, it just makes it more difficult to tell whether you're in boost mode or not. Not great. I have nothing to say. I mean, it's Metal Sonic sprites just recolored silver. I think it's to represent the monochrome Metal Sonic you face if you are Metal Sonic in the vanilla game, which is at least a slight bit of justification, but it just feels lazy. I looked back at what I had said for my vanilla Metal Sonic review on the sprites, and I mean, it all mostly still applies. He still looks focused, he still has swagger, he still has a couple of cool animations, plus now you get the ones from the boss fight as well. The particle effects are worse, because now you have no drowning animation and the boost mode looks worse, plus the energy blast appears with so little notice and disappears just as quickly, that oftentimes look like you just deleted an enemy rather than actually fire something at them. I understand that making a version of the clone metal you fight necessitates that you end up looking like Metal Sonic, obviously, but there's ways to circumvent feeling derivative. You could redraw them, as I know from my Discord server that Sketchzelle is a bit of an artist, or even edit them to make him look damaged from his fight. After all, his story is apparently that he's trying to get revenge on Metal Sonic, so this happens after he's supposed to have started exploding and bursting into flames in black core. Can't really give a good score for just reusing sprites, even if there is a lore justification, but they are ultimately just Metal Sonic sprites, so objectively speaking, they're pretty good. Overall, this is a failure of a character. Supposedly, this is the revenge-driven clone of Metal Sonic from the vanilla game, set after his defeat and assumed discarding, but he doesn't look or feel the part. I didn't even realise this was the case until looking through his files to figure out the exact skin colour he uses. I mean, it says on his character select page, but really who even reads those? And it doesn't explain why he's had such a massive buff to his abilities. The power-ups actually make him feel worse to play as you end up smashing and scraping along every wall you find and lose any satisfaction you once had from completing a level. In fact, it's one of the relatively few times that a mod could be improved for being nerfed. It'd be more appropriate for the character and more fun if the buffs to the jump height and movement speed were rolled back to their original state, while the energy blast and dodge feature could stay untouched. And keep the infinite oxygen too, as frankly vanilla Metal Sonic should have that trait as well. It still feels derivative and a bit lazy. I mean, who was asking to play as a monochrome Metal Sonic? But it'd at least be genuinely, defensively based on a thing to justify it. This is a 3 out of 10, at best. I hope you enjoyed the video, and ciao.